Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the second skill that we need to learn this week is taking a graph of a line and determining from that line what the slope-intercept form of the equation is. Okay, so we already have the basic constructs of understanding slope, understanding the y-intercept. Okay, we got that down from our first lesson. And now what we need to do is be able to master what it's like to be given a graph and be able to give its respective slope-intercept form. So how you see these problems 1 through 4 here is basically how our exit slip is going to look like for this particular skill. So let's break these down. Given this line here, we can find the place where it crosses the y-axis, and that would be way down here, and that value would be -5, seeing that it's below the origin, down 5 units. And just be careful here, knowing which scale is given here. We're fortunate because each line is in essence 1. All right, so we have our -5 as our b. Now right off the bat, we can get rid of a and c because what they're giving us there, they have it like mixed up. They have the wrong slopes and the wrong y-intercepts. Okay, so we're looking for the y-intercept of -5. But then we got to figure out which one of these slopes is correct. We have a +2 and a -2. So what I need to really do is find 2 points where it crosses the grid exactly. Obviously, we know that this is a good point. And here is a good point as well. Remember, it's good to have 2 points that are close together because then you don't have to worry about reducing when you have to calculate your slope. So in calculating slope, remember it's rise over run. So to go from one point to the next, I'm going to go from this top point down to the bottom point. So I know my rise is going to be 1, 2. So since I went down 2 for my rise, and then I can calculate my run. So from here, I went down 2, and then I'm going right. And I need a text box here. And then I'm going right 1. Well, the thing we need to really figure out is going down positive or negative. And based on our study and things that we know that down represents a negative trend. And then going right 1, well, going right on the number line gives us more positive numbers, or greater numbers, I should say. So that would be a positive value. So -2 over 1 would be our slope. That corresponds down here to letter D, where it has also our y-intercept of -5, and D would be the correct answer for number 1. All right, zipping over here to number 2, we can easily see that our B value here is +2. All right, so I'm looking for my B values. Remember, we have our formula here, y equals mx plus b, and I can take that everywhere I go because I have our b value at +2. So all these +2 values are already given to us. So what we need to do is find out what our slope is. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a value where it crosses the grid exactly. Now this is a yucky point right here because it doesn't cross exactly, but this is a very good point. Now, going back to our slope, rise over run, to go from one point to the next, I'm going to start at this bottom point. I'm going to go up 2 and up 2. I can denote that as up 2. And then I have our run value, which is going to end up being going right 1. All right, and so we just have to figure out the positives and negatives and everything like that. So going up 2 is positive. Going right 1 is positive. And so we should end up with an m equaling +2 over 1, or just +2. Okay? So I can pick the one with the correct +2 as my b, +2 as my m, and you can see that that corresponds to letter C as the correct answer. So you got to be careful with these other options. They're kind of slick in the presentation of it. They like to mix them all around. Okay, let's look at number 3 here. All right, first things first, we have to identify our y-intercept. And you can kind of see that our line passes the y-axis way up here, so that would be my b equals positive 5. So wherever there's a b of positive 5, I can keep. As you can see really quick, that kind of eliminates all these other choices. Bam, bam, bam. Okay, here they mixed it up. Again, to make sure that A is the correct answer, it's going to end up being, because it's the only one with the y-intercept of positive 5, because again, a lot of students do mix up the slope and y-intercept values. We got to make sure we don't do that. So our B value, where we begin our line, is at the y-intercept, the place where it crosses the y-axis. And then from there, we can find our slope. So I'm going to go up 3 for my y-intercept. And then I'm going to, from that point, go right 1, 2. And right 2 is positive, up 3 is positive. Basically, that gives us our slope of positive 3 over 2. And that corresponds, of course, to the correct slope. For this last one here, number 4, we're beginning at positive 2. So I know that's my B value. 2. And then looking down here, I know I can eliminate right off the bat that one, that one. All right, so it's between A and D. We just got to figure out which is correct. You're going to be able to do this on the Keystone exam using, process of deducing the ones that you can get rid of. In other words, the options you can get rid of. And in this case, we can determine that that this is a positive slope. We know it's going to be A based on it being a positive slope, because here's a negative slope. We know for negative slopes we'd be going down and right. Well, here for positive slopes, we're going up and right. And let's just make sure that we're good here. We have our 2 points. I always like using the y-intercept as my 1 point. And I just pick another point that's close by that crosses the grid. So I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, and then go right 1. So up 3, right 1. Those are both positive values. That ends up giving us 3 over 1. Whoa, that's a crazy 3. 3 over 1. And that, of course, does give us a slope of positive 3. And that corresponds to letter A, where, again, we have our positive 2 as our y-intercept. Now, what happens if they don't give us multiple choice? You're going to have to do this on your one practice sheet. So again, we start off with B, and you can see our B value is right there. So we know that that would be a B value of 5. And now what we have to do is we have to calculate our slope. And we can calculate our slope by picking 2 points again that crosses the grid exactly. Again, the y-intercept itself is a great point. And I see another good point only right here. Okay, those are the only 2 good points I can use, because the other ones don't fall on the grid exactly. We want to find the intersection point. So then from my first point to my second point, I know I can go down 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to write down 3. And then for my horizontal component, my run, I know that I can go right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's really hard controlling these editors. So right 5 give us our slope then. Okay, so we just have to figure out the positive and negatives. In this case, going down 3 is negative. Going right 5 is positive. And now I have my slope and my y-intercept, and I can put it into the y equals mx plus b form. So I can do my y equals, my m value is negative 3/5, so I'm going to write that as negative 3/5. Now do not forget your x next to your slope. You need that x component. And then since the b is positive 5, I'm going to write that as plus 5. If it was below the origin, it would be minus whatever value it was for across the y-axis. Okay? So those are a couple problems there. Let's pick this number 8. All right? Really fast, because I think it's an interesting Question. Looking at our b value, we see that it crosses right at the origin, so my b value would be 0. And then I have to pick 2 points where it crosses the grid exactly to find my slope. I'm going to choose this point here. It's close by. I could have chose this point here. In any event, I know that I need to go down 1. So for my m, I'm going down, which is negative, and that's my rise. Remember, it's always rise over run. And then my run value would be 1, 2. Since I went to the right 2, I'm going to use a positive 2 for my run. And there's my slope. As a final thing that we need to do is we need to put it into slope-intercept form. So I'm going to write y equals, my m value is negative 1/2. We're just painting these numbers in. Let's not forget about the x. Okay, we need the x there. We can't have negative 1 plus 0 because it's not going to make any sense whatsoever. It's going to give us a totally different line, which would be a horizontal line, to be honest with you. But here we have y equals negative 1/2 x. And then instead of writing plus 0, I could do that. I don't need to. Since it's a 0 value, we don't even need to include it. And there we have it. So putting equations into slope-intercept form, we need to identify what our y-intercept is. We need to identify our slope, put them into the right areas in our slope-intercept form, and then we have it. Don't forget to email me if you have any questions, and I hope all is going well.